I'm here now with Bent Sorensen, who is from Copenhagen in Denmark, and he has won the Grawemeyer Award for Music Composition for a triple concerto titled The Island in the City, that has a fancy Italian name that I will let him pronounce. Because first off, congratulations.
Thank you very much, thank you.
And welcome to Louisville.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
It's pronounced Louisville, however you want to say it, by the way. That's very good, so
That's
you got
good.
that.
Thank you.
And your concerto, L'Isola della Città?
Yeah.
Is that close enough?
That is so close as it can be.
Okay.
It's perfect.
All right. So what about this concerto made it special to you in your mind?
Well, I think it's a concerto, but there's three people who is forming the soloist, because it's a triple concerto, so it's not like three soloists. It's three individuals becoming one person. I think very much. So it's you could say that it's a lonely soloist in the middle of an orchestra, a lonely island in the middle of an orchestra, but on that island, in that soloist, there's three persons, so they are not so lonely anyway. So it's basically the way I composed the piece too. I thought very much as an island who was sort of floating in a city.
Island in the city. Okay.
So,
and the musicians are what? The instruments are
the
what?
instruments are violin, cello, and piano.
Okay.
So it's a piano trio, and yeah, that's in fact that I got the title when I was in Copenhagen because I was standing on a balcony, and we had a balcony at that time in the middle of Copenhagen, and suddenly I felt I was standing on an island in this big city, and maybe also when we walk around in cities we have our own mind, and then we are sort of individuals. Persons who are walking around in our own thoughts, but influenced by the city around us, the noise and the other people talking and so on, which is sort of a basic human situation, I think.
And that's where the title "The Island in the City" came from. I'll tell you what. Let's listen to about 20 or 30 seconds of your composition, and then we'll talk about it here. Okay. So you told Marty Rosen from Leo Weekly, which is here in Louisville, he did an interview with you, that your music reflects the time we're living in right now. How does what we just heard reflect the time that we're living in right now?
Well, I think I think there is more than one music who reflects the time we're living in. I think as a person living now, you of course reflect the time around you. And it's maybe especially in this piece because we are in this person or individuals in this enormous world. But I think that the fantastic thing about music today is that you need so many different music kind of music to reflect the time at its all, really. But I think that this music couldn't have been written in any other time. So in that way, it's a part of reflecting our time.
Do you try and compose music that people will remember and will sing along to or tap along to, or is it just you hope to get some emotion out of them at the time that they hear it? What are you trying to get out of people?
Well, the easiest thing is to say I don't think about my audience, but that's not true, because if I didn't thought about my audience, then it would be a very exclusive audience I had. But I don't. It doesn't infect the music. I don't have to think about that people should hum this music when they walk out of the street. That's not my intention. I think my intention is to make a communication with my audience. Mm-hmm. But it's not a communication which I can explain exactly what it's about. I think that's one of the general beautiful thing about music is that it's so abstract. On one hand, it's so abstract we can't really. It's not a speech. It's the language is sound and music, but besides being so abstract, it's also an art form which really communicates to the soul of people. Because we all know that music is so much a part of us, and we have a lot of our memories and things we remember is is relying on music in a way. It's a very big part of us. So on one hand, it's most abstract. On the other hand, it's the most emotional art form, which is, I think, it's beautiful to be in that situation. That I can create stories nobody understand, but they can infect them in a good way.
And get some emotion out of it.
Emotion, yeah.
We're talking with Ben Sorensen, who has won the University of Louisville Grawemeyer Award for Music Composition for a triple concerto, The Island in the City, or the, I guess the Italian version is L'Isola della Città. Again, we're trying to pronounce that that title. Why an Italian title, by the way? Why'd you just call it Island in the City?
Well, maybe that's true. I could have done that. I could have written it in English as well. I have pieces with English titles, and sometimes I don't speak Italian. It's just I thought it was very Italian-like, and I love Italy, and I go there, and I've written 2 piano concertos, and one of them is called La Mattina, is the morning, and the other one called La Notte, the night. And I thought this is not a piano concerto, but it's a kind of the same story. It has has this Italian pictures inside it, so it's an Italian island in a Danish city.
And this is in 5.
And now in Louisville.
And in Louisville, there you go. And this is in 5 movements. Why 5?
Yeah. Well, it was. That was not a plan from the start. Actually, I wrote the second movement first, and then I thought it should be in 3 movements. but gradually, as the piece grown, I knew that I had to write a movement before that. So the first movement is actually the last one I wrote. The reason why for that is that the second movement is a sort of the normally big movement. As in a classical concerto, and it starts with a fugue on the piano, solo, so lonely as you can be, just playing one note with each finger, and then when I was going through that, I knew that I needed something that should come after. It was like an intermezzo.
Maybe something else.
Yeah, I need something before that to initiate it in the correct way. And the 5th movement is Abgesang for the whole piece. So that's why there came 2 extra movements compared to a normal classical concerto in 3 movements.
You sort of got into my next question. I listened to it, and it sort of sounded, like you said, nice and gentle, and then it sort of reaches at different parts, sort of a crescendo, like an action movie or something. Are you deliberately trying to go from that, nice, easy sound into something more dynamic?
I don't think so much about it. I just do what I think it should be like. I know that there is
just kind of pops into your head, or just kind of sound.
I'm very interested in the contrast. I think that if you have the softest, and then the wildest, then you have a big thing to work with. And I like this fact that you come in a big concert hall, and then it starts with a tiny tone on the piano. That's just a psychological feeling inside me. And then it grows up and become more ecstatic, especially in the 4th movement. It's a very sort of ecstatic, very, very fast movement, and sometimes very loud. And then in the end, it ends with this Abgesang, this ending, what do you call it, farewell, where the city is given up, destroying the island.
We're talking with Ben Sorensen, who's from Copenhagen. He is the winner of the Grawemeyer Award in Music Composition at the University of Louisville. A couple more questions here. Who were your influences? Your parents were musicians, right? Or at least one of your parents was a musician, right?
My father was a violin player. And it's, I think actually this piece is dedicated to my parents, besides dedicated to the trio, because my father died 2 years ago, he had Alzheimer. And I remember when I thought about this triple concerto, I remember that when I was young, he was a child, he wanted me to play the violin, and I didn't have the patience. And then he wanted me to play the piano, and I didn't have the patience. But I was very interested in all his sheet music. There was all note papers and all this violin concerto in piano reduction. So when I was about between 7 and 9 years old, I started to write music myself. There is no masterpieces hidden there. It was a very, very well, a very, very young boy who tried to make interesting music, and not really interesting music. It was just I was very influenced by it. So, and I grew up with the classical music, and I grew up with especially the violin, because my father was playing the violin. So I grew up with violin concertos.
So there's your influence, your dad.
My dad was an influence, and later in this piece, my wife is a pianist. And she's not the one who's playing in the ensemble here, because that was a commission I made for her, who was made before I met her. But of course, that's a great influence when you live together with someone. Actually, she gave me the idea of connecting this island and the city thing, because I had some. I was working on the last movement, where I had the idea about that this piano trio was just playing, and then it was surrounded by noise in the orchestra. And then I couldn't really figure out how it should be done. And then she mentioned the fourth piano concerto by Beethoven, the slow movement, where actually when she has played that, she had the feeling that she's just continuing even if somebody tried to destroy her, the orchestra. So you get the influence of persons around you, and of course you're influenced by music. I wasn't so influenced by the triple concerto by Beethoven, but I choose the same range. The orchestra is the same range as the Beethoven triple concerto as a kind of tribute as well.
And finally, what does the Grawemeyer Award mean to you?
Well, I'm very happy about it. I'm very, very proud. I think when you get older, so a lot of people say that you should have prizes when you are young, but it's not always true. You should also have prizes when you get older, because that is a recognition of all you've been doing. And I think all people need a kind of being recognized in some way, get a little saying that's okay what you're doing. And I'm very, very happy about that. And of course, the money following it is a very good thing. But I think the honor is amazing, and I was very surprised and felt very honored, because I can see the list of composers, and it's just it's on a line you really feel that when I get on that list, then there's something, you have done something.
Yeah, you're there with a lot of big shots in music.
Yeah,
you really are. Congratulations
again.
Thank
you very much.
Ben Sorensen.
Thank
Congratulations.
You. Thank you.